Hi there, this video is for Banggood. They've asked me to do a video as to why this needs to be returned and what my problems are with it, and they wanted me to show it being used, but I'm not going to do that because you'll see some of the problems that you'll find on the tool holder here will actually damage my lathe if I use it, so I'm not willing to do that. But I think it's fairly obvious why it won't be able to be used once I show you. First of all, it was shipped to me opened, pretty much as you see. You can see I can put my hand in here. That's how it was shipped to me. I have pictures of that. I already sent them to Banggood. I'm more than happy to send them again if they need to see them. One would think that maybe there's just a component or something sticking up. I initially thought it was this, because it just lays in here like this. But even if you were to line that up, it still doesn't close. But essentially there was just a piece of tape wrapped around it and it was open like this. So because it was open this way, as you can see, the other components that are in there, they could just flop around because they weren't engaged in the top part. This is the guy that was moving around most, and I think it's because he didn't have a home. These other guys mostly stayed in place, especially the larger ones. But let's walk through the components. So first of all, this box doesn't fit these parts. As I showed, this part here doesn't really have a home. But even if you were to remove this and try to close the box, this guy still doesn't have a home. According to the web page, this guy here and this guy here mate together. And once he's out of the way, these other pieces would end up moved around such that this would close. But this box does not fit these parts. So let's walk through these parts one at a time. I've either highlighted with a black marker, or they came already pre-scratched with certain things in there. So let me show you. So let's start with this guy. This is the worst offender, and I think he was the one that was bouncing around and caused the most damage. If you notice up in here, as well as all through here, you can see all the scratches that were in there. Now these scratches I can feel with my finger, and these scratches came black. That's actually the first one I saw, and why I believed there was a problem to begin with. As you can see, this black material here that's there to protect the part is actually in here. So this came actually from the factory this way. It's kind of scary that this happened. Now I'm willing to forgive that, but if it was the only problem, but it's not. And when we go through the rest of the system, you'll see that I just can't use this part. I'd have to end up having this reground, and as well as the other guys here. So that's this one here. This guy here, the body seems okay, but for this mark here, which you can kind of see it glaring, that I believe was a scratch or a ding, probably from this guy being bounced around. But coming back up here, I put a circle here. You can see all the scratches along here, so that makes this unusable because this would have to be reground. There you go. That's a good picture of all the scratches on there. And again, these are scratches I can feel with my finger. Let's go to this next part here. Some scratches on the body, which again I can feel. I mean, there's scratches all over these, but like up here, but I can't really feel that with my finger, so I didn't bother with those. These are ones that if you run your finger across it, your finger will catch. So it's certainly deep enough to cause a problem. And I'd be concerned with a body like this because this part has to go into here. So if this one is scratched and I jam it in, now the body is scratched, which then scratches all the rest of them. So I'm very concerned with that. The larger ones didn't seem to have as much of a problem. I'm assuming because they didn't really bounce around. Like that there, that's not even deep enough to care. I can't feel that scratch with my finger. In fact, it's really hard to even see in the camera. Same with this guy here. I didn't mark him because I can't feel that with my finger. It's certainly visible, but I can't feel that with my finger. I would say for what I paid that was acceptable, but again, these other guys are so much worse that I can't accept that. This guy here, again, some scratching here. But this one actually seemed to fare pretty well. Some little bits of scratches here and there. But then you get to the top, and sure enough, it's damaged. I mean, either somebody used this before I got it, or there's some sort of a problem with it, because basically it just looks like this has been used and somebody really gouged this, or whoever manufactured it really didn't take the time to clean it up properly. This guy here is a cup, so the inside is really important, but it seems concentric. I don't believe there's a problem inside, which is nice. I think the finish should have been polished a little bit, but you know, again, for what I paid. But then you've got these dings here. This is the stuff that, you know, I can feel that with my finger. So how can I actually use this with an indicator? Because as I run the indicator across this, I'm going to end up hitting that, and it's going to mess up my reading. So I won't be able to actually tell if this is set properly. And again, down here with the body, these things, big scratch there, big scratch there. These are problems that I just can't have, because I can feel that with my finger, and if I go to engage this part into the barrel here, it's just going to end up causing scratches internal on this, which will then ruin the rest of them. Again, this guy seemed pretty good. I was pretty happy. I mean, again, the finish I think should have been better, but it's smooth. There seemed to be some sort of chatter as they were creating it. You can see the little dots, but that's not something to say there's a problem, really. It's more just somebody didn't take the time to polish it up once they were done. But again, I have problems with the body, those scratches. And then a couple of finish things up here, which, I mean, this guy here, I can't feel with my finger, so I didn't circle him. But these guys up here, I mean, you can see they are just some pretty wicked dings. And if I run an indicator across that, it's just going to catch and it's going to mess up my reading. And lastly, I was very impressed with the bearings themselves. This spins stiff. It's not stiff in a bad way, it's stiff like a proper bearing should be. It doesn't seem to have any play. If I try and, you can see I'm kind of pushing like this with my thumb, but there's no play in it. It does move like it's supposed to. The inside of this seems pretty well done. Again, there's some chatter, but nothing that I think there's a big problem with. I can put my finger in there, my pinky, and feel around, and it feels smooth, so I don't think there's any issues in there for at least what I need. But then we come to this, and again, I'm not willing to put this in my tailstock on my lathe because, I mean, there's these huge scratches in there. Like this guy here, I mean, that's like a chip, like somebody whacked it with a chisel almost. I mean, I can feel it coming across. So I mean, that's just, I can't have that like that. Let's see, there's those two, and then there's this guy up here. You can see all these little scratches, which, alright, this wasn't as big of a deal, but again, I'm just pointing out that the quality on this is terrible. Same with this guy here. I even missed that when I was looking these over to try and put circles to make it easier to find in the video. But here's another one. I can feel that with my nail. There's another one right next to it. There's one right there. Wow, there's a lot more showing up in the video than even I could see in person here. Maybe it's just the way I got the light shining on it, but I mean, this is all dinged up, and I believe it's because when this was sitting in the case, this was actually here, and when I opened it, this piece was like that. So I'm assuming that since this guy was the one that was flying around the most, he's the one that caused all the damage by dinging into him, and him. I mean, just as it shipped, it was probably bouncing around. And again, that's just an unacceptable thing. I can't have that, because for what it cost, this is the guy, and this guy here with the gouges up here, and this guy here are the ones I'm going to be using the most, and they're the ones that are ruined. And having this strange taper on here, I can't even really grab it and try and refinish it or something, so I'm going to have this sent out to be ground and fixed. And I checked into it, it's more than $20 to do that. Plus I'd have to buy a case, which those cases that I've seen, they're in the $35 to $40 range each, and that would be something that is not necessarily even for this set. So I mean, we got to do something about getting these returned. I really only needed you to return these tips, and I would have done something to this, but because you are unwilling or unable to give me just the tips, I believe this whole set has to be replaced. Give me a proper box, give me a proper unit without these scratches and dings, and correct these problems here, because this is a, you know, while it's not the most expensive set, it still needs to work. I mean, I could have made something as good as how these are, and that's just unacceptable for something I purchased. Especially because, like I said, I mean, even if you were to take this thing out, the case doesn't even really close that well. You can see it's still not closing all the way. And then if I say remove this guy, it'll close kind of sort of. I mean, I gotta push really hard, and then this clip doesn't even clip on there. I mean, as hard as I can push, it does not clip. So something is the matter with that as well. So hopefully this video demonstrates what you were asking for, and hopefully you can get back to me as soon as possible on this, since I know Chinese New Year's coming and American Christmas is coming, so shipping and manufacturing and replacing is going to be very time consuming, but we got to get this taken care of quickly here. So I really appreciate your time, and thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day.